Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. Hope you guys are having a great day today. I'm doing a quick follow up for what I what I explained in a few videos prior, and it's just something I thought of that kind of piqued my curiosity a little when it came down to explaining a lot of the things that are going on. But either way, we are going through the timelines, the quantum entanglements. So there, the the illustration here just shows what I presented to you in my previous video about the timelines. And this is just another way of looking at it. If you can say that you're going from, it says your quantum entanglement. So there is a connection right between these two. And then, as I said in that past video about the threads that connect each event, right? We just had an event. It's on the TV. Everyone knows that's an event, right? That's a situation that can modify the way the timeline as we get to the another event, right? Or as we go, we could, as I said previously, we did go through an event which could have ended in different scenarios, right? But still, we landed at the event where we are now, where everybody is generally focused on the same ideas, and that has a lot of energy for itself. Instead of saying the word power, let's use the word energy, right? It incites your mental capacity to focus on one thing specifically, and then there's lots of people that are focusing on this. They're focusing on the situation that we have instead of what are the results for that, right? How that came across and how it happened. We'll never know the other scenario that I mentioned, but I know that this is the best scenario that could happen for all of us. So the proportion theory of quantum entanglement involves a situation where we're all in the same linear movement going forward, but then specific events happen as we go on that alter the timeline. It just alters the way of how we get there, but eventually we'll just land where we need to be in a sort of predetermined path, right? That we can, extinct ourselves if we start going in the wrong direction or picking the wrong options as we go, with plenty of stop signs and be careful. What do there's going to be a nudge or a pull in one way or another where you're going to be it, trying to avoid extinction. There are civilizations that have gone extinct, all on their own doing, genetically modify themselves to death. There are lots of those. There are lots of situations and scenarios where this is explained, and at least the theory of it happening, it's more than just a theory now. I think it's fact, based on what I mentioned to you earlier, the video that I made. But the getting there, it's most likely it's going to be the focus. So as of right now, we really don't have the answers that you're looking for, or we don't have the scenarios in place. So that allows us to have more control of our future, so to speak, with the occasional, let's do it this way or let's do it that way. There's a lot of deliberation going on right now with people on how they want to express themselves based on the situations that we have. I try and stay away from all that, just focusing on what is a what's the higher purpose, right? What was the reason behind this? And sometimes at night I just start thinking about what happens or what's happening or where we're going specifically, because there are lots of scenarios that allow us to look at things in a certain way, and then retrospectively um, analyze in the past the things that have happened, right? So there's a lot of that thing going on, and maybe we may not be able to move forward right now at this time. We're always moving, right? But then there's a sort of step back taken and a reflection, and maybe you're moving on over or moving along to the appropriate next step, right? You're thinking about what your next step is, who you're moving away from, and who you're moving to. That's no longer serves your interest, or you're moving on to something else or someone else, or changing your your perception, right? So that's important. That's an important thing to take notice. Then we have the proportion theory, quantum proportion theory of our timeline here, right? It does have to do a lot with. There's obviously a little more to it than that, but I think based on the previous events, I can reach out to you more, and I can make this a little more relevant in classifying it for what it is, which is a quantum mechanics. Um, then we have the timeline changes that we have. So right now we're just barely getting through this event, this quantum um, lapse, this quantum entanglement, this moment in time before we move on to the next quantum entanglement. And then that is good because we're deliberating, and the deliberation process is it's at its early stages. Then we can go and determine, then are we going to go this way, or are we going to go that way, or are we going in which direction it's the best for the bulk of humanity. And it has to do a lot with all the countries in the world. So we're still looking at that as a process, because there's riots everywhere, that I can see. But I don't like following politics or doing any kind of uh, engagement in those kind of things, because then that just kind of it messes up. You're putting your energy into something, and then you're focusing on one thing, but then everything else around you, you're completely oblivious to what's going on out there. And that's not good, right? Because do you want the whole picture rather than just a little slice of where you want your focus to be? And you have every right to. But if you're in a situation, or you're in a privileged situation where you have um, a responsibility, then I, you shouldn't focus too much on one thing for too long. Focus, don't focus on that. Don't let that drive you too much. Take it as a slice of life, and go on with the other slices of life that you have going on with you right now. So it can trigger people, and it has, and it will, and it's just not something that's triggered me. Even the things that I watch on TV or YouTube mostly are just things that I feed on, that entertain me, mostly entertainment, but it's not deep rooted where you have to have this sort of uh, an blind loyalty to one faction or the other, or whoever you're focused on, or whoever you want to be you're aligned with, which is great. But that's just at a very basic level. There's obviously more demanding issues that are that take more up of your time, because it's regarding the whole planet, even, right? And that is where I like to focus on just the whole picture, and then not just this, which isn't less important that I'm saying it's not my focus. It is important, but it's not necessarily my focus, more of just the explanation behind what happened in my previous videos. And I'm just taking this as an example, which is unfortunate. Obviously it's not something that not the video you're not the kind of explanation you're planning on making when it comes to things like this, but it moves the field of the consciousness, and then we can alter the timeline. And it's already been altered, and it's in the process of changing in one way or another. So then it kind of brings up a lot of the deliberation that we have, and it brings up a lot of the direction where we're taking the country, or the even the even the stance on a lot of the way things are going, so people could think of being better human beings towards each other and accepting each other's differences, instead of pointing the finger at, you're the bad guy, that makes me a good guy. So it's definitely a lot of political charge out there, and a lot of people are going to express it because they feel that urge to do so. It's it's a match that's been lit, and a lot of that is going to expand outwardly, and it's going to settle into one of the timelines that hasn't been really determined yet, which is human's choice. There's, like I said, there's civilizations out there that, based on their choices, have destroyed themselves, or have genetically modified themselves enough that they're not really a shadow of what they used to be. There's always a guidance. There's always a guide. There's always a group of individuals that can take this and turn it into something better, instead of bringing out chaos. Which brings me to something else. The video that I made about the reptilians, I don't remember much of what I said, but now I can just confidently confide with you that there's a group of reptilians that are leaving the planet, and they're looking for they've already found the place where they're going to go to, and they're going to leave the planet. They know, because they can also see the future as well. They know that if it continues like this, that this isn't a it's out of control. There's literally no control going on right now. You have those that understand what's going on, and they can see for themselves that, okay, this isn't going where it's supposed to, right? You don't go knock at the CEO's door and say everything's all right, right? He'll say, yeah, everything's all right. Everything is not all right. So that's why they're asking about flooding the planet. Think about it. And the reptilians are about to go. They're about to leave this planet because they know that all hell is going to break loose soon here on this planet. And it's just the way it has to be, right? I am not the individual for myself that should think for others enough to warn you about what's going on, and then there's not that kind of responsibility for one there's not that kind of responsibility for one single person to undertake. It takes a group of people to fuck it all up, and that's what's happened. That's what's happening, and that's the reason why the reptilians are leaving. As I mentioned a few videos ago, they're about to leave. They'll leave before right before the new year. They're gone. They're going off to another planet, and then we're left with I can't tell you what exactly, but there's going to be still some influence. There's reptilian influences will be left over, and then that's where the whole the whole planetary situation begins to unfold. So um, they asked about it, flooding the planet, and they were giving their answer. Now the reptilians are leaving. We have this quantum effect as the timeline shifted that's affecting the way that the planetary situation is going right now, and it doesn't look good. It is not a good situation right now. So it can change, it will change, but again, I have to let each and every one of you know what's going on this planet, where are we heading, and that things can change. So it's a developing situation. I'll leave you guys with that. The takeaways would be the liberation that's going on. There's the reptilians are leaving the planet, and there's uh, well, just that everyone knows that it's not good. I being repetitive, I understand, but that's what I would take from this video. So I'd like to thank you again for watching, and maybe in a week's time we won't be really making that much videos. Seldomly, when the time is right. I have little time to make them, but they're just as important. So you can think about that for a moment, let it sink in, and try and enjoy the rest of your day.